Hello, everyone. I'm Asha Nayaswami, and it is my great pleasure to be here today with Sundara Traymar, whom some of you may know for his role in Earth Sky Foundation, which is the nature awareness nonprofit that Joseph Cornell Bharat created. And Sundara has been Bharat's assistant and his representative now for many years. But today we're going to start somewhere else. So, Sundara, I know that you're a resident of Ananda Village now, but I'd like to know who you were before you got there and how you ended up becoming a disciple, finding Master. You don't have to start with your conception. You can start a little after that, but whatever you would like.
Well, I'm doing a course on Master's Life now that I'm preparing. It's going to be launching in a couple of weeks. And I found that Master spoke at the location in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I graduated from. So that was pretty fun to find that out.
Very nice.
So yeah, growing up in Pittsburgh, and in high school, my best friend and I would go to the bookstore on the weekends. Mm-hmm. When other people would be partying, we'd go to the Borders bookstore and we would go to the spiritual section. The books at the time I think we were reading were Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch, right. Way of the Peaceful Warrior.
Right.
And so,
how did you happen to have a spiritual interest at that point? Were you raised in a religion, or did it come right out of you?
I was brought up Catholic, went to Catholic school for 12 years. Mm-hmm. Parents very devout. They still, every morning, they read the Bible and discuss and do prayer, a little silent time, as long as I can remember. So it's always been in me. Yeah.
And you were in tune with what they were doing. You didn't rebel against it. You welcomed it. I
rebelled against it more in high school because it was imposed upon me a little bit more than I would have liked. Because my experience of God was primarily through experience I had in nature.
I see.
On a wilderness trip. And so once I had that experience of God in the wilderness, when I went back home, I wouldn't go to church. I would say I would go to church, but instead I would go into the forest behind the church.
Really?
Yeah.
So what was that experience? How old were you when that happened to you?
I was 16 years old. It was in Utah, in the most desolate part of the United lower 48. And I was along this river, and there was just this calmness, and the evening sun was just painting this beautiful colors on the canyon wall in front of me. And I just felt this overwhelming just sense of joy. And there was just an experience where just like the peace of nature just rushed into me. Mm-hmm. And, months later, I thought, oh, that's God.
I see.
Yeah. And I wanted that feeling. And so I wasn't getting that feeling at church. I would go into the forest instead.
I see. So you told your parents you were going to Mass.
Yeah.
And you would just walk toward the church, but go around it?
Yeah. Well, they were in the choir, so they had to go at a different time. And so once in a while I would go, but then it was just, the forest was calling me.
Very good. So this led you to the bookstore.
Yeah, this led me to the bookstore. My best friend and I was doing martial arts at the time, Shaolin, Kung Fu, and I thought that was going to be my whole life. But then when I was 17, I went to a holistic chiropractor that my mom had gone to, who saved her from getting some sort of like surgery that the doctor said that she needed, and he was able to not have her need that surgery. And so I went to see him for something. I don't remember why. And he just looked at me, and he was like kind of quiet. And he said, I'm going to give you a book. And if you tell your parents who gave it to you, I'll deny it. And I can still remember him writing on a scrap of paper, Autobiography of a Yogi, Yogananda.
Really?
So I went back home. I think I went to the bookstore. I bought a copy of it. I went back home. My sister Michelle and my best friend Matt were both there at the time. And they read the book first. Interestingly enough, they're both Kriyabans now.
Really?
So it was at the same time. And so it was through that doctor that I first found autobiography when I was 17.
So one book brought 3 disciples to Master, yes?
Yeah.
Very efficient.
Yeah.
So now you're 17. So what happens after that? I mean, did you become a disciple at 17?
No, I became a disciple at 24. Actually, at Master's Crypt during Swami's book launch of the Revelation of Christ.
I see.
I had no idea. Bharat just said, you should take discipleship. I said, I think I already am a disciple. It was just kind of, there was never a process. Am I a disciple or I'm not a disciple? It just kind of flowed into it. It was very interesting. It just like, of course I am.
Yes, of course I am.
It was never, was I am or not. It was just, I was.
I was.
Yeah. And so taking this ceremony literally at Master's body, I didn't realize that was a pretty significant, pretty amazing event. At the time, I didn't think it was so amazing.
Right.
But there was,
bodies in Los Angeles at this marvelous marble crypt. It's a public place, more or less. So
yeah.
Did you take from Swamiji? Who initiated you then?
Bharat and Anandi. Yeah.
How very appropriate. Yeah. So where were you living by the time you were 24? Were you at Ananda? Where did you go to college in between? What did you study?
Yeah, I went to college in North Carolina, a school that was known for academics, work, and service. One of the few work colleges in the country where students run the campus. So it was like an intentional community, only 800 students, very based on ecological concepts. We grew a lot of our own food, organic farm, but every student had to run the campus. So this sense of community, I loved it so much. And so it was there that I started to read Master's teachings more and more. A relationship I had was ending, and it ended hard. And I realized that I cannot find a love like this unless it's divine. I mean, it was almost like my incarnations had come to a point where, okay, I'm done. If it's just a relationship on a typical romantic human love level. And so my longing and reading more of Master's works, and specifically in conversations with Yogananda. I was doing an internship in DC for the Smithsonian, and I read that book more, and that was in 2006.
What do you do as an internship at the Smithsonian? Like, I might have a picture of you polishing prehistoric bones, but is that what you actually did?
Well, the Smithsonian is a collection of museums and their research centers. So I worked at the research center teaching environmental education. We had already had Bharat, who at the time was Joseph Cornell to me, come to my college and give workshops and lectures. Because I was studying environmental education in college. And the first book you got was Sharing Nature with Children, Joseph Cornell.
Really interesting.
Everybody knows him.
Yeah.
And so I got that book. We invited him to college. It was right at the time when my yearning for Yogananda's teachings were more, in Kriya Yoga, were more like uppermost in my consciousness. Right. Here comes Bharat. We were at a workshop. He said, I feel a connection with you. Right. I didn't know why. Right. And just literally weeks before, I was looking for somebody to get Kriya Yoga from. And here he comes.
Well, just for the few people who might not know, Bharat Joseph Cornell is a founding member of Ananda Village. He wrote his groundbreaking book, Sharing Nature with Children, at Ananda. And he basically had two parallel identities, has or had. One is as a prominent teacher, Kriyacharya of Ananda, and the other is this literally world-renowned environmental innovator. So he finds you. So what you're describing to me is basically you just kind of sat there and God kept finding you. he gave you a book. He sent you Bharat.
Well, definitely. I mean, looking back, there was definitely a yearning.
Yes.
And that yearning just kept bringing these experiences. And it wasn't just rosy experiences. Like I said, the relations that ended, it wasn't it took years. But it was in that suffering. That was when I was 24 when that ended. And I think like every 12 years is like we have if we have a spiritual karma can come up. Right. So it was a simultaneously end of suffering and beginning of the new chapter.
Right. So I didn't mean to imply, lest I need to apologize, that you've had it easy. But what I meant was how perfectly you've been just taken care of is really what I'm seeing there. Yeah. So you meet Bharat, but you're on the East Coast, not on the West Coast. How did you end up out here in California?
I graduated from college, and I took a job out near Ananda as a camp counselor. And I chose it because I knew I was close to Ananda, and so I would come on my day off. We had 24 hours off per week, and I would come to Ananda on my days off. And then I just had to quit the camp and just did karma yoga for the last 3 weeks of the summer.
Right.
And then I went back to North Carolina. I was a wedding coordinator for a year.
A wedding coordinator? How on earth did you ever fall into a job like that? I mean, just a second. This is like to prove to you that romance is not the answer is the only thing I can think of.
Exactly. I mean, it was just fabulous. So, I graduated, I was in Asheville, North Carolina, which was like this progressive pocket in the middle of the Appalachian Bible Belt. And my college was this liberal college, and right next to the college was this beautiful valley in the Swanano, right, surrounded by mountains. My religion teacher wanted to purchase the land to save it from development. So she made a wedding facility out of it and asked me to be the coordinator. So I coordinated about 40 weddings. Yeah.
And you enjoyed it?
I enjoyed parts of it, but I realized how crazy weddings are, and how many details they were. So they really prepared me to learn how to take on something big.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
But by now you're already a Kriyaban? You've already met Bharat? You've already been initiated?
I had taken discipleship that previous summer.
I see.
2006. Year goes by, wedding coordinator. And then during that year, I called Bharat just to talk, and he asked me to work with him at Sharing Nature.
Great.
You said Sky and Earth Foundation. It's called Sharing Nature Worldwide, just to clarify.
Sharing Nature. You saw me. I hesitated. I knew I was going to do somebody a disservice. Sharing Nature Worldwide. That was what
Sky and Earth touched me. So
yeah. All right. So 2006, you moved to Ananda Village.
2007, I moved to Ananda Village.
And this is where you're living now, and it's where you've always lived since then?
Yeah. So I've lived here since 2007, and variety of jobs since then. Sharing Nature has been the continuous thread throughout. But I've been working at Crystal Hermitage throughout that whole time.
What kind of work do you do at Crystal Hermitage?
It's maintaining the gardens with Netri and Jivita, planting all the tulips every year, making rock beds, doing general maintenance, things like that. Yeah.
It sounds to me like you've had very consistent interests. I mean, God comes to you in the wilderness, nature education, growing food.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting in that regards, because my evolution of, the college I went to at Warren, it was called Warren Wilson College, was very much traditional environmental education, activism. And I quickly got out of that. I didn't see nature, Sharing Nature as we're here to, change people's minds, but it was about really changing people's hearts, because that's what changed my relationship to nature, was the changing of the heart. And that's really what the Sharing Nature approach emphasizes. Of course, we teach facts, but it's really about the heart.
So how does being a disciple inform your being a nature educator? How do they work together?
Well, just as Swami saw Master's teachings like the hub of a wheel,
right,
and the core teachings can like radiate out into all these different areas of life. And I think that's part of Swami's genius, because not everybody are going to be disciples, but everybody wants happiness and bliss, and using universal spiritual principles to attain that it's what it's all about. And so Bharat did the same thing. Everything on Sharing Nature is inspired by Master's teachings.
Right.
And the whole process of flow learning is you lead people through step by step into different nature activities, where all of a sudden their mind is uplifted and calm. And then that's when nature can enter into us. Master said, all of nature is all of it is God. And so here is God just entering into people on a deeper level. And so when I do my Sharing Nature work, I don't think of it as I'm doing Sharing Nature work. I'm doing Master's work. sharing nature is just that particular vehicle at the time.
So how would you define master's work when you say that? What is master's work to you?
I think of master's work as universal upliftment of consciousness through that specific vibration. Because I think we think of master's work maybe as an organization, right? Which the organization can hold master's work, but in a deeper level, it's the vibration coming through individuals. That's part of it, and coming through individuals creatively. Because even if I wasn't, ever since I first came to Ananda, I felt like my only role in life was to share master's teachings. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't even know what that meant. But just, I'm realizing now that it's not in a specific way of being a teacher or sharing nature, but it's in the sense of being a channel for his vibration and trying to, in that way. So what is master's work to me? I think it was at the end of Swami's book on Master, the biography he wrote. He said, how will his legacy spread? And he said, it's through self-realization of individuals.
When you speak of master's vibration, which you use that many times in this conversation, what does that mean, master's vibration?
I've had in my mind, I don't know why, when I had this, always had this image of my mind where, we're taught to visualize master's eyes. And whenever I do that, I get to this scene of master is outside of Mount Washington, and I'm with a group of disciples that he's greeting, and I see his eyes for the first time, and I feel that vibration coming into me. And I don't know, I can't explain it. It's a particular unique feeling that I've grown accustomed to. In the beginning of my path, I didn't know what that meant when people said that vibration, but slowly but surely over the years, I've been able to differentiate it from when I would go and meet Amma or read other books. It's something that is just a sensitivity I think I've kind of grown accustomed to over the years. That's the only way I can describe it.
How does it feel to you when you're in it?
There's a sense of clarity in it. There's a sense of clarity. This might be odd to say, but there's a certain smell.
No, it's not odd at all. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a sense of knowing, especially like if I read one of excerpts from Durga Mata's book and read more of like the mundane, him working in the kitchen. I get in that vibration again. It's almost like I was there, or I am there right now. Of course, when you're in meditation and after you drop the technique of meditation, you just kind of be in the stillness. That vibration is strongest. And then it kind of pops up here and there again and again.
Yeah, I can understand that. That's very good.
But I would say the strongest time I felt that vibration was, I think it was the last donor dinner Swami gave before he passed. He was blessing people in the gallery of the Hermitage. And I just remember his eyes were just like glowing. It was just like he was gone. And it was just master's vibration. And it was the same vibration I felt before and after. And he just touched us all for just like a boom, like a second. It's a spiritual eye. And afterwards, I couldn't move for like a half an hour because the bliss was so great, so intense. And there was that same vibration. So again, it was like this melding. It wasn't the personality of Kriyananda. It was the vibration of Yogananda in this path coming through him at that time.
So has Kriyananda played an important role in your discipleship, do you feel?
Yes, definitely. Because at first I thought, it's just about Paramahansa Yogananda, master. And then I realized that, we all have to be these lights for master to come through us and work through us, because master isn't going to work the same way in 1952 as he's going to do now. It's going to come out in new and creative ways. And when we attune ourselves to Master in a deep way, like Swami has, he's going to show us all these, again, creative ways of expressing Master's teachings. But it wasn't always easy for me to attune to Swami because, he has a personality, and sometimes, I could attune myself to it. Sometimes I couldn't. But over the years, I've tried to go beyond the personality into, again, the vibration beyond it, like to feel that more so. So, and Sarah, in terms of how has Swami's importance been to my discipleship, it's been extremely important in that sense.
As an example, as a conduit, you describe him giving you an experience of Master's vibration. Yeah. That's certainly something.
Yeah. As an example, for sure. When I started reading autobiography, as I said, when I was 17. I couldn't get through it at the time. But it wasn't until I went to Thailand in 2005. I was studying in Tibetan Buddhism for a month. And then I went to Thailand for some vacation. I got bored. I went to a bookstore. The Path was there. And just reading his book on the Path, on Master, the chapter called Paramahansa Yogananda, I just remember tears flowing down my face. And that's when I realized Yogananda was my guru. But it was through him describing Master so beautifully. So that was the first experience. And then just throughout the years, I've had dreams of Swami, and it was just interesting. And I remember being at the Crystal Hermitage, and when I was working there, and he'd be there, and I'd really want to get his attention. He just wouldn't give me anything. And then there was a time when I thought, okay, it doesn't matter. I'm trying to get him to recognize my ego. It just doesn't matter. So I just relaxed. And at that moment, I feel this vibration coming behind me. And he's there. He's like, hello, how are you? And there's a lot of stories like that. But just to see how he was constantly trying to help people experience this vibration of, and again, reading about Master, he would say, I'm here to bring my guru's teachings, Sri Yukteswar, or Lahiri's teachings. Again, it's not just as the way as I see it, and I don't know if I'm right or not. It's not, again, Yogananda's teachings. These are universal teachings of a specific vibration coming down that we all have the power to be channels for ourselves.
That's perfect.
And Swami showed us that we can do that. Yeah. And it's not bound by any organization. Yeah. And that's the individual who loves God who can be that channel.
That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. You have not repudiated romance completely, I hope, in as much as I know your wife. Yeah. So how did you come to embrace the householder life again?
Yeah. I think I was doing Masters. My time at Ananda, I really wanted a relationship, but I wanted the right relationship.
Right.
So I was put in the role of working at the Expanding Light with the Karma Yogis, where you have all these attractive young people that are coming, and I couldn't be in a relationship with them because of the role I was in. And so I kept having to kind of hold my energy in.
Right.
To the point where one Karma Yogi asked me, "Are you a monk?" Which was like, "Are you serious? Do you think I'm a monk?" Like, yeah, you're so inward. Where years before, I was known for being more like that Italian romantic. And so I thought, okay, I started praying, doing Master's Prayer for relationship. And I always felt like I was going to be with somebody who was a nun. And sure enough, Nanda Devi comes from Argentina, part of the group down there. And that's how she was in Brahmacharini at the time, and was transitioning out of that even beforehand. And I was transitioning into wanting to be in a relationship whose first love was God alone. And that's what her love was for 4 years of her life. And so we met, and we've been married since 2016.
Right. Very, very nice for that.
Yeah.
So how do you see, I know this is a big question, but I'm like a founding member of Ananda. I am literally 50 years since I met Swami. And I really feel, I see the whole world has changed around me. I mean, what we're doing is timeless. It has nothing to do with culture or fads or anything like that. But Ananda itself as an entity is an evolving entity.
Right.
So where Ananda itself is going, I mean, we basically brought it up from nothing. There was nothing there, and now there's something. You all have come in when there was something. Do you have a feeling of like what you're supposed to be doing, or do you think in those terms? Do you have any picture in your mind of what Ananda could be, or what you're supposed to do?
Like Ananda in general?
Just in general, or let's put it in another way, like your unique service of Master through Ananda. I don't exactly know. I really don't know what I'm asking.
Okay, yeah. I asked Bharat this once regarding sharing nature. I said, what do you see as the future of sharing nature? And he says, I don't know, that's up to God. Something along that way, in a sense of like, if we get too fixed that it has to be this way, then we're getting into a fixed mindset. And the fixed mindset is more Kali Yuga. In Dwapara Yuga, it's more about flowing with the energy. So if we keep our energy uplifted and our minds open, then a current of energy might come along that said, this is the way it's going to go. So it's important, I think, that, we have a direction in our mind, but not be so fixed on that of in which way it's going to go. It's going to be different because we're going to go deeper into Dwapara Yuga, and we have to work more with modes of energy in that regards. So in the future of Ananda, I don't know exactly what that would look like.
A trick question, because that is the right answer. I've been, as you know, I've been responsible for community here. I'm sort of emeritus now, but I've been responsible for 30 some years. And when people would ask me what my job is, I said to have inspiring experiences and to help other people have inspiring experiences.
That's it. Yeah. And finding new and creative ways of doing that for people.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Do you think there's a real generational difference between what I lovingly call my tribe and your tribe? Do you think that culture is going to play enough of a role in it, or do you think that's superficial?
There was that one master was quoting, I think, Rudyard Kipling. He said, the East and West will never meet. But when a strong man of the East and a strong man of the West meet, they'll come together. And, sometimes I can see a difference in generations, oh, that's the way you guys do it, or this is the way we do it. And, and the thing is, it's generational, it's different. But the fact is that you've been practicing Kriya Yoga for what, 50 years?
Close.
Right? Yeah. And I believe in your sincerity. I believe in your goodness to help people. I believe in the power of Kriya Yoga. Right? And that means you're going to have more intuition, in my opinion. So even if I don't agree with you, I trust your intuition, I trust your sincerity, and I trust the power of Kriya Yoga. And so that's what I focus on. And so whether there's a difference or not, that doesn't matter. What matters is the sincerity and the Guru's grace of Kriya Yoga. And that's what I think our generation needs to focus on too, and not focus on the differences so much, but the underlining unity of what brings us together in brotherhood. I mean, that's what Master's here to do.
Oh, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. That's a good answer to a bad question. Thank you, my friend.
Of course, we're going to do things differently, but that's just the way it is, and we have to do it with attunement and honoring those who have always come before us.
Very, very good. Thank you. We'll be talking to Nanda Devi before too long. And
yeah, you'll be seeing her soon. Here's a picture of her.
Here's her picture. Okay, perfect. Oh, and who says you're not a romantic? Okay. God bless you, my friend. Thank you for sharing.